to put Apple right up here because I want to see part of my analysis when I'm looking at the overall markets. I want to see what um, investors think of the big cap stocks and what they think of tech. So rather than have the Mag 7, I don't believe in the Mag 7. Actually, I am a non-believer. I don't believe there's such a thing as the Mag 7. I think it's in the imagination of hedge funds that want you to buy them up. I think it's all a bunch of bullshit. Can't be denied that there were a number of stocks that with their, what they've been weighted at in terms of the S&P 500, the amount of incredible growth they've gotten from AI. But I don't use the Mag 7 as a anything. What I care about are what stocks move the markets. So if I said to you, if Netflix drops 5% tomorrow, is the S&P 500 going to drop? Is the VIX going to spike? Is the market going to move overall? What about Tesla? If Tesla drops 5%, does the S&P 500 buckle at its knees? Yes or no? Yeah, no is the answer. In case you didn't know the answer, now you do. But if Apple and NVIDIA both head down together, that is a significant signal that the number one, the leader in AI, and then that's NVIDIA, and arguably the market leader, Apple, so goes Apple, so goes the market. You could make a good case that if these two head south over 2%, and the VIX starts to move up and you can make if it moves down, you can make a bearish case. And if both of them are moving up together and which we're going to get to, you could make a bullish case. So I'm looking at Apple daily and NVIDIA daily. I've got the moving averages here, and you can see they're both trading below their 50, but they are making higher highs and higher lows on the daily chart. This is a higher low. This is a higher low. We have not put in a higher high yet in NVIDIA, so NVIDIA is still suspect. Yeah, I'm going to get to scaling in a second when I put on some other indicators. Thank you. So this, I don't know, Apple's about to take out the previous swing, but not quite yet. I think if Apple takes out this high, 212.94, let's call it 213. Apple hits 213 and NVIDIA can stay above, say, 110. There's going to be very little to take the market down because remember, I always say this as it relates to the VIX. The VIX is going up. That's fear. That's bad. The markets are going to, but why? What causes the VIX to go up specifically? What causes Apple and NVIDIA to rise together? What is it that causes it? Well, you could say, buying of stock. Yes, but who? Who is buying Apple and NVIDIA together that would cause them both to be up, 0.25%, 0.5%, 1%? That's the question that gets answered when you look at, these charts. And it could be institutions, yes. It could be hedge funds, yes. Could be retail traders, yes. How about all of the above? How about enough friggin' volume to move the stock? The stock is not moving up because of stock purchases. The stock is moving up because of options purchases. People buying out of the money, at the money, and out of the money, weekly, monthly options. No, not China. China is not moving the market up. However, to your point, Bam Bam, if there's an announcement that says China, in retaliation to Trump's tariffs, will no longer allow the sale of the iPhone, well, yeah, then Apple will tank about 10%, the S&P will fall, the VIX will rise, and the dollar will drop, and we will be in a little bit of a free fall. Yes, that's true. So does everybody understand that when you see Apple go up, when you see Nvidia go up, and you see them go up together, that is a bullish sentiment by hedge funds and institutions that are leaning in to both of these Mag 7. Let's call them the Mag 2, okay? They are the Mag 2. Or short, they're the moos, okay? The moos say it all right here. Now, could also make a case that the real market leader, the one that really kind of telegraphs where the market's going to go, is the Russell. Huh? The Russell? You mean the garbage stocks? Well, not so fast. If you were the owner of a $3 billion company that was placed in the Russell 2000 and somebody referred to you as a garbage stock, you'd say, you know what? Go F yourself. We're a $3 billion company. Well, have you made any money yet? No, but that's besides the point. Are you still borrowing money? Yes. Okay. But what happens is when the market starts to get fearful, and when I say the market, investors get fearful, they can do a few things because they don't just freeze and stand still. The one thing that investors don't do, and this is a great lesson for you to learn right here and right now. This is for day trading, convert the vert trading, and swing trading. The one thing that investors, true professional investors, is they don't panic. It looks like they panic. The media will say investors panicking and the market sells off. Fuck you. That is not what happened. You caused the panic, not the investors. Investors do not panic. Investors don't dump. So if there is fear in the markets right now and investors go, you know what, the uncertainty or trade talks aren't going that well, or I think something's going to happen, or bad earnings season, whatever it is, they're not going to panic and dump Apple and dump Nvidia because their shareholders won't stand for it. When I say their shareholders, their customers, they're the hedge fund customers, listen, the next time Nvidia goes down, you better buy the dip. Oh, don't worry, sir. We will take advantage of any discount we can get on Nvidia. They're not dumping the stock of the biggest companies in the world. So if investors get fearful, what will they dump that won't be noticed by the hedge fund customers? What would be something they could dump that the overall market won't even see? Because everybody's watching Apple, Nvidia, Microsoft, Tesla, Supermicro, GameStop, Bitcoin, Palantir, right? Isn't that where all the eyes are? So if hedge funds and institutions want to offload some risk, guess what the first thing they start to dump? Yes, IWM. That's where they drop first. They can offload some risk of arguably the more volatile stocks anyway. And if the market's going to sell off, let those sell off. I'll stick with my Apple and my Nvidia. Now, if it really gets bad, I'll buy some VIX. If it really gets bad, I'll buy puts on Nvidia. I'll collar, right, Cheryl? I'll do a collar strategy, right? I'll sell, get some premium, and I'll buy some longer dated puts. But I'm not going to panic and dump Apple. They don't dump Apple unless they have somewhere else to put the money. And what they were doing for a while is they were dumping Apple and buying and taking the money and buying Nvidia. And then they would rack up Nvidia, they would dump Nvidia and then put the money back in Apple. I showed you guys those charts for months, right? Is this making sense? So the Russell is very key. The Russell gives us like an idea. Now, let's say the markets have sold off a little bit, or there's a pullback in the markets, and investors want to dip their toe and come back in, but they don't want to alert the media. They don't want to alert retail investors that they're coming back in, because if they did that, what would happen? What would happen if investors came back in and started buying Apple and Nvidia in bulk? What if they all started jumping in to the Mag 2? Yeah, the prices would go up, which would hurt them because they want some controlled algo buying as this thing kind of drifts down, drifts sideways, a gap down, then it comes back up and blah. They want to buy down here quietly, right? So if they want to do that quietly, they want to get back into the market. Let's just say there's been a sell-off. They want to get back into the market, but they want to get back in quietly. What do you imagine they could buy that wouldn't raise too many eyebrows? They buy the Russell. They slowly start putting on risk. You see, they put on a little bit of risk first. Then they start placing bets here on Apple. And then once they buy Apple and they've already got this rising, then the media goes, look at all these stocks rising. You better buy some Apple. But they're already in. They already got in here. You see the play here? Does this make sense? Have you guys ever heard this conversation in your lives as a trader? Probably in here. So do you now understand why I have, because it doesn't make sense for me to create a setup for you here and then not explain why are we looking at these charts. So now with the explanation of why we're looking at them, right? It'll make so much more sense when you look at them and you see, oh, look, Apple's up, Nvidia's up at the same time. This immediately should tell you something. They're buying it. Okay, let's check the Russell. Yep, the Russell's been on fire for the last 3 or 4 days. It kind of slowed down a little bit. Starting to catch momentum. The Russell up, Apple up, Nvidia up. Now it gives you context, right? Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video from Trade With Me Now. Make sure to go ahead and like this video and subscribe to our channel so you make sure that you catch our next video right when it's released. Also, if you have a question or comment, please leave that in the comment section below. And of course, if you want to learn more about Trade With Me Now or join our community of profitable traders, go to tradewithmenow.com. There's also a link in the description below.